Heraclitus of Ephesus was incisive when he stated that no man enters the same river twice, for neither the man nor the river are the same. This statement dismantles a widely held illusion, the belief that life can remain static, predictable, and under control. But reality operates differently. The flow of existence is inescapable, and attempting to halt it only results in suffering. As Heraclitus warned, the only constant is change. Despite this, many insist on clinging to what no longer exists, trying to impose permanence on what is inherently transient. This refusal to accept the flow of life takes many forms. Insistence on worn-out routines, attachment to relationships that have already emptied, staying in jobs that no longer provide value. Heraclitus, in his philosophy of becoming, perceived that everything is in transformation. Everything flows, nothing remains. The resistance to this truth does not prevent the world from changing. It only intensifies the pain of those who cling to what has already fallen apart. The error is not in transformation, but in the belief that it is possible to freeze time. Heraclitus viewed reality as a continuous flow of transformation. Nothing is permanent except change. Yet, people seek refuge in what they know, as though it were possible to build a barrier against the passage of time. But that barrier is illusory. What seems secure today can vanish tomorrow. Promising careers can disappear, relationships can weaken. One's very identity can dissolve in the face of new circumstances. The attempt to fixate on what is mutable only paralyzes, never protects. Suffering does not arise from change itself, but from resistance to it. Heraclitus understood that fighting against the flow of life is a futile effort, akin to trying to contain a river with one's hands. In the same rivers, we both enter and do not enter. We are and we are not. Rigidity is a burden, adaptability, a privilege. The sooner this reality is accepted, the less energy is wasted trying to hold on to the unsustainable. Heraclitus's vision has never been more relevant. Understanding and accepting this truth reduces frustration and allows for clearer action. Change does not ask for permission nor wait for those who doubt. The river continues its course, and swimming against it only causes exhaustion. But those who learn to navigate the inevitable currents of life discover something few perceive. Change, far from being a threat, can be the key to a deeper understanding of existence. And so the inevitable question arises, why do so many still cling to an illusion that only imprisons them? Heraclitus of Ephesus was unyielding when he stated, "Everything flows, nothing remains." Yet, the human mind refuses to accept this truth. There is a longing for stability, an innocent hope that happy moments will last forever, that relationships will never change, that tomorrow will be only a predictable continuation of today. But this expectation is an illusion. The belief in permanence not only distorts reality, but it also becomes the root of suffering. Heraclitus warned of this millennia ago. The nature of things is change. Not understanding this truth does not prevent life from continuing its course. It only makes it harder to accompany it. The attempt to fix what is inherently in motion creates a temporary sense of security. But that security is a sand castle. People cling to deteriorating relationships, insist on careers that have lost their meaning, and repeat obsolete habits, all to avoid the discomfort of uncertainty. But Heraclitus is clear: nothing is permanent except change. What seems solid today can collapse without warning, and this is the only undeniable fact. The world moves independently of individual will, and those who resist its dynamics condemn themselves to frustration and fear. Consider those who build their entire identity around a single role: the successful professional, the ideal partner, the exemplary parent. But what happens when that role dissolves? The job may disappear, children may go their own way, relationships may change. And when this happens, those who define themselves solely by what they had or did find themselves without reference points. Heraclitus captured this essential fluidity of existence when he said, "In the same rivers we both enter and do not enter. We are and we are not." To believe that the natural course of life can be stopped is like trying to halt a river with one's hands. Greek philosophy already understood that the universe operates in constant motion, and Heraclitus was its greatest advocate. He saw reality as a continuous flow of transformation and inevitable becoming. Change is the only constant in life, yet most people prefer to ignore this dynamic, attempting to fix what cannot be fixed. Suffering does not come from change itself, but from the clash of those who try to hold on to it by force. The fear of impermanence leads to the futile attempt to keep everything static, and when this strategy fails, the impact is even greater. True power does not lie in fighting against the flow, but in understanding it. Heraclitus teaches us that those who move with the current find opportunities that those who resist will never see. Those who accept change as an essential part of life not only avoid unnecessary suffering, but they learn to transform it into an advantage. The question, then, is not whether change will come, because it always will, but how to use it to our advantage in the journey of existence. If everything changes, what does it mean to live without resistance? Those who understand Heraclitus's vision become more flexible, less anxious, and better prepared for the inevitable challenges of life. Everything flows, nothing remains, the philosopher asserted. Change is not a threat. It is the very structure of reality. If one stage ends, another begins. If one cycle closes, a new one begins. The error is not in transformation, but in the refusal to adapt to it. Like the seasons of the year, life follows its own rhythm. It is pointless to expect winter to last forever, because spring always arrives. What can be done is to recognize this dynamic and learn to move with it. Many remain trapped in the past, clinging to what no longer exists. But Heraclitus teaches us that change is not only inevitable, it is essential. Nothing is permanent except change. By internalizing this truth, one understands that resisting it is a waste of energy. Rather than trying to preserve what has already gone, it is more useful to ask what this new moment has to offer. Suffering arises from the attempt to hold the river's water between the fingers. Relief comes when one learns to observe its flow without trying to control it. The world belongs to those who understand and accept this fluidity. Heraclitus compared life to a constantly moving river. If its current cannot be stopped, the only choice is to learn how to navigate it. But this acceptance is not just an abstract idea. It is an attitude that must be incorporated into daily life. How can one transform the understanding of change into something practical and tangible? Heraclitus of Ephesus left us an unavoidable lesson. Nothing is permanent except change. Understanding this intellectually is a first step, but living according to this truth requires something deeper. Knowing that everything flows is not enough. It is necessary to learn how to move within that flow. This understanding of change must become a practical guide in our daily lives. If we understand that everything is transient, we can more easily accept that relationships, jobs, and even our own circumstances evolve. The first step is to allow ourselves to let go of the obsession with control. Instead of clinging to a predictable future or a past that no longer exists, we can focus on the present, the only moment we truly have influence over. Accepting that life is not a straight line, but a constantly moving river, means adopting a mindset of flexibility and openness. Instead of viewing changes as threats or losses, we must learn to see them as opportunities for growth, transformation, and expansion. Every time something leaves, it is because space is being made for the new. Learning to let go is not synonymous with abandonment, but with trust that what is truly necessary for our well-being will arrive in its time. Living with this attitude requires presence and awareness. When faced with a change, instead of panic or despair, we can choose to observe our response. We can ask ourselves, what can I learn from this change? How can I adapt and grow from it? Transformation begins with an internal willingness to accept what is without resistance. It is about recognizing that the future is uncertain, but in that uncertainty lies true freedom. Difficulties, losses, and failures are nothing more than opportunities disguised as challenges. Those who cling to what they cannot change and resist the fluidity of life end up trapped in a cycle of frustration. In contrast, those who flow with the river of life, responding to changes instead of fighting against them, find peace in the process itself. The true essence of life is not in permanent things, but in those that flow, transform, and renew. How can we take this understanding beyond theory and apply it in practice? First, we can cultivate a mindset of acceptance, being willing to receive whatever comes without judgment. This does not mean resignation, but an act of understanding that life will not always align with our expectations, and that is okay. By accepting this truth, we free ourselves from anxiety and fear of the future. Next, we can become aware of our emotions and thoughts in each moment. If we find ourselves resisting change, we can pause and ask ourselves why. What are we afraid of? What are we losing? How can we reevaluate our perspective to see the possibilities that come with change? This introspection allows for a more fluid and conscious response, rather than reacting impulsively from fear or frustration. At the same time, change also involves action. Simply accepting the flow of life is not enough. It is essential to make decisions that align us with this flow. It is not about remaining passive, but about moving toward the future with courage, confidence, and curiosity, actively seeking new opportunities that align with our values and aspirations. It is also important to build a support network around us. Being surrounded by people who understand and accept the impermanence of life, who are willing to grow and evolve with us, can be a great refuge. Community plays a crucial role in this process, as when changes are experienced, having people with us can provide comfort, perspective, and strength. Finally, incorporating gratitude into daily practice allows us to transform our relationship with change. When we are grateful for what we have, no matter how fleeting, we learn to appreciate what is present. This attitude creates a solid emotional foundation that helps us let go more easily without clinging to the past and embrace what is to come with an open mind. The art of living according to the flow of life is not something achieved immediately. It is a daily practice that requires patience, flexibility, and a deep understanding of our nature. However, When we allow ourselves to flow with life, we not only find peace, but become an active part of that flow, embracing transformations, living with purpose, and making the most of every moment, knowing that, as Heraclitus said, everything flows